Let's get real. Sometimes we have to help clients make impossible choices. How do we do that? This is the Coaching Hub. I'm Ruth Kudzi. Let's dive in. It would be lovely to think that all of our clients have an obvious choice. Shall I eat another bag of crisps or shall I have some celery? I'll always choose the crisps. But actually, decision making is complex. The thing is that often we are helping clients to hold discomfort, emotions, other people's emotions. We're helping them to actually look at the possibilities when each choice isn't the perfect choice, because there is not a perfect choice. So this is about how do we hold space for clients and that duality when they are making hard decisions? How do we support them without bias? How do we not step into that role of the mentor, I think you should, and stay in that role of a coach? So often decisions are highly complex. We're thinking about the systems with which our clients operate in. We're thinking about the influences on them. We're thinking about them as a human. When we're making decisions, especially if someone's a leader or a business owner or whatever it may be, it's really easy from the outside to think, they've made that decision based on fact. They haven't thought about my feelings. I would say from my coaching thousands and thousands and thousands of hours and over 1,000 people, I have not ever had anyone who hasn't thought about how that decision impacts others. But you don't see that because we see things through our own lens. So I'm going to give you an example and then we'll delve a little bit more. I've held many a space for clients who have to make a decision on who is going to be made redundant. They have to make that decision. So they can't opt out of the decision. It has to be made. Maybe they're the business owner or maybe they're a leader and it's their responsibility. However, when they're looking at that choice, they are looking at those people because that's the way they do. And when you're looking at their performance, they're both good performers. So then what else do you look at? Well, maybe then you're starting to get into over empathy, but you're like, well, this person maybe is older, so it might be harder for them to get another job. But this person's just got a young family, or I know this person's caring for their mum, or I know this person. And so it's really, really difficult because we start to look at all of those confounding variables, and that pressure of making a decision can be really, really difficult. And many of us go into kind of mind reading, catastrophizing when we're making these decisions, and it actually activates the nervous system and means that people can get stuck. That's why they're not making a decision, because cognitively, when our nervous system is really activated, we go to freeze, and that means less brain power, less blood flow to our prefrontal cortex, which is where we make decisions. So actually part of this is when our clients have got those tough decisions to make, supporting them in terms of their state. Sometimes we might even share that. So helping them to navigate all of the things that they're feeling, but sometimes supporting them to think about stepping into how they want to feel after the decision, or something more positive, or how it aligns with other things can actually open up some brain space. So it's really easy. Probably in that example, you were like, they should. Yeah. So we need to notice as coaches when we are going into, we think they should, because actually we only have the context that our client has shared with us. We will have different lenses, different experiences. As somebody who's maybe a little bit older, I'm thinking, don't get rid of the older person. Like, we don't want to make it harder for them. Like, that would be the way I went. But maybe if it had been 10 years ago and I'd had a young family, I'm like, no, don't get off the, so we actually put ourselves often in the shoes of the people that the client is discussing, even though we don't know them. So just notice where your preferences sit, where your biases sit, which is often that similarity bias, and recognize that this is not about you. You don't have to make the decision. Your role is to support and hold the client's emotions, to help them to work through which of these is the best right now with the information they have in the moment. And it's really important to get clients to recognize if they need to make a decision, that actually they're making the decision in that moment with what they have right now. And we can look at the influences, but there's part of them that needs to be compassionate with themselves about that. Because there may be things that we don't know that could influence the decision that we'll find out later. And then we say, oh, well, if I'd have known. But actually, then we're just going to the past and we're making ourselves wrong in the past. If we are grounded in the present, supporting our clients with what they know right now. And again, when it's these big decisions, it's not just what they're thinking. So often, yes, we can look at the rational, but then we can go into the emotional. Like, what are you noticing? What are you noticing if you did X? What are you noticing you're feeling if you did Y? What is your intuition telling you? If you made this decision, we can do some future pacing. How would that feel? If you made that decision, how would that feel? Then which of these is the one that you can hold more lightly? And it's about helping them to recognize that difficult decisions and decisions that are going to cause friction or discomfort to others sometimes need to happen. And if we are able to hold that non-judgmental space where they feel heard, they feel validated, they feel seen, they feel supported, to give them that thinking space. That is what great coaching is. It's about a thinking space. It's not about, I always say this, it's not about a perfect solution. We don't end a coaching session having tied a neat bow, because life isn't like that. Life is messy. Life is chaotic. Life has lots and lots of different things that are going on. And actually, if we can support our clients to recognize the influences, to recognize what they genuinely feel and want and know, we can help them move forward. And this does mean that we do have to think about their state and our state. We do have to think about emotional regulation. We do have to think about the nervous system, because that's going to provide the brain with more brain power. And sometimes these conversations sit with you. I know that I have had clients make really difficult decisions, which I'm obviously not going to share for confidentiality purposes. And that's why, as a coach, having supervision is so key too, because we need a space sometimes to go, I help someone make a really, really hard choice and it's sitting with me. Maybe I don't feel personally that's a choice I would have made, and I need to work on that. If I'm going, I don't think they made the right choice, that's about me, not our client. So that needs work from me, not my client, but the supervisor can help. So I just invite you to be okay with supporting people in decisions that you wouldn't make, but also to help people to recognize that the ducks in a row is a fallacy in many places. And if they are able to use the space to choose the best decision for them, given everything they know, feel, and sense, it's a good decision. So just recognize that these things are hard. Often we might be feeling our clients' discomfort. Often we might be having to regulate, process, reflect as well. I'd love to know what your top tip is when people are really struggling with decisions. And of course, you can check out what we do at optimuscoachacademy.com. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment below.